Hello and welcome to Walk the Pod, your daily walking show where I take my podcast for a walk because I don't have a dog. You're very welcome along. This is episode 7, series 58, in which we're talking about our theme of rest, brackets, is resistance. And I'm in the park behind the hospital, walking on a very windy day. It just rained, then it stopped. Everybody in the play park went home immediately, but I stood under a tree and looked on my weather app to find that the rain was going to stop in 9 minutes, and so I have waited. And now it is beautiful and somewhat dangerous because the trees are dropping their dehydrated limbs left, right and centre. So many branches and twigs all over the ground. Welcome to Walk the Pod. Today I want to think about taking a rest from things which take a very long time and are sort of ongoing and to some extent draining over time to do. So annual leave, holidays, big blocks of annual leave, holidays, sabbaticals and respite care. And to think about what rest is resistance might mean in this context. So if we think of doing something very long term, which requires a lot of energy and is perhaps emotionally difficult or perhaps psychologically difficult, the importance of taking breaks from that in order to take care of yourself and also to take a bit of time away to just recover and have a bit of bandwidth, and by bandwidth I mean have that expansive feeling where your mind is not completely overtaken by the thing you have to do every day, and so you can think about other things and think more expansively and more freely, assuming you're a person who thinks expansively and freely in the first place. Not everybody is, and other approaches to being alive are valid. I have found over the last few years that when I take a 2-week break from my job, I get a different type of rest than if I take 2 or 3 days at a time. And some people can only take 2 or 3 days at a time away from their work or away from somebody they care for every day, or some other type of commitment. And it's increasingly clear to me that the good chunk of time away is transformationally better rest than 1 or 2 days. And it seems sad that not everybody has access to this model of taking breaks. And if you are suffering with a mental health condition of some kind, then you know that not everything is possible to take breaks from. I completely appreciate that. Sort of indicates that everything is modular and you can just disengage and re-engage with things. Not everything can be possible to take a break from at all, so completely understand that. But if we are to live happily and in contentment and enjoy life, then it's important to take decent chunks of breaks, which is why a lot of the academic system has sabbaticals built into it, where after usually decades of service, people take a few months out. And why on earth is there not a sabbatical option for every career every 10 years? Really, because how can we be expected to carry on for decades and decades and decades with no decent chunk of break? I think European holiday options are a little bit freer than ones in America, for example, where holiday is not really so much of an important thing. But I have personally really benefited from taking extended breaks. So that's today's angle on rest, brackets, is resistance. And why is that resistance? Well, if we take enough time away that we can actually think about what we want to do in the world, it may be possible for us to become a little bit more morally ambitious, shall we say, about what we do for a living, what we want to do with our time here, whether we're actually doing something that brings us any kind of joy. Because what brings us joy when we start a career isn't necessarily what brings us joy further into a career, if that makes sense. So certainly I found what I set out to do when I was 20 does not really appeal to me in the same way now. Your experience may vary. What can I see directly in front of me? Well, I'm in the park behind the hospital. I'm just walking past something that looks like a hydrangea, but I don't think it is because the leaves are the wrong shape and the clusters of flowers are not quite big enough. I'm not quite sure what it is. The people who have fled the play park when a tiny bit of rain turned up have gone. Some new people have turned up who went, oh, look, the play park's completely empty and there's sunshine beaming all over it. So it is it's rather a nice day in the park, but it is windy. And as I said, something I've recently learned is that when trees have dehydrated branches and twigs, they just drop them. They disconnect and drop them on the floor. So you have to be careful around this time of year walking under trees, particularly on a windy day, because you may get hit by a branch. Got little white clouds scudding through the blue sky. And it's GratiTuesday, so I'd love to invite you to think, as you listen to this podcast, about what you're grateful for. Take this moment to just make sure you're being present and not glazed over and just doing whatever you normally do without sort of really being awake and alive. Give yourself a little bit of a moment just to reconnect. And then think, what am I grateful for? It might be something very, very small. It might be something that we take for granted most of the time, but is very, very, very large. Like, are we grateful, for example, for our health, such that it is? Are we grateful that we have a roof over our heads? Are we grateful that we have the space and time to listen to podcasts whilst walking? Are we grateful to have somewhere to walk? Because not everybody has somewhere to walk. Or are we grateful for warmer weather? Or even a breeze, having slogged through some really, really hot and not particularly breezy days of late. And on GratiTuesday, we also encourage members of the Walk the Pod Lunchtime Walk Club to capture in words or photographs anything that made them pause on their walk today. So when you're on your walk, if anything makes you stop and look at it in a bit more detail, maybe you've really only noticed something for the first time today. You've stepped out of your front door and you've walked past multiple times. That's something you can put into our Footpath Finds daily walking low stakes game. Tell me that you paused to look at a puffball mushroom, or that a butterfly landed on you as you were walking, or that you got dive bombed by a pigeon. Whatever it is good to mention on our Tuesday low stakes daily walking game channel on the Discord server. And if you want to know how to get to that, you need to join the Walk the Pod virtual walking club, and you can do that via walkthepod.com. Thank you for walking with me, dear friends. It's been a delight to stretch my legs with you this lunchtime. I wouldn't walk if it wasn't for you giving me a solid reason to get out the front door. I know this because I don't walk as much in between series as I do when I'm recording a series. So thank you for listening. Take care of your beautiful mind, and I look forward to bringing you episode 8 tomorrow.